screen like so. Hopefully, can you all, well, Simon, can you see that? Simon, are you there?
Yeah, I can see it, Andy.
Oh, Andrew can see it.
Yeah, I can see it.
Excellent, excellent. So, I think what we'll do is, well, let's start with slide number 1. So, first of all, I'd like to introduce your presenters. So we've got Andrew Walker, who's Account Director at Netcore. Then we've got Mr. Simon Pike, who's the Market Solutions Specialist at Netcore. And so let's have a look at the agenda. Gents, do you want to take us through that?
Yeah, sure. So we're going to have a look at the dilemma of digital transformation and what that means, and therefore why taking a platform approach makes sense and fits around that. We're going to look at off-the-shelf solutions versus platform low-code as part of that as well. And then Andy's going to go on to talk a little bit about the story of procurement and make some best practice suggestions as well around how you can work with CCS to help move procurement forward.
Excellent.
Yeah, just really to sort of share other options and examples of where people might want to look at from a procurement route.
Brilliant. Okay, well let's start off with so what's the dilemma of digital transformation?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? So I think there's a choice out there about big picture, looking across your organisation versus silo of services transforming. And one of the questions we ask councils on a reasonably regular basis is, are you focused around the transformation across the entire organisation? And if so, are you looking to support transformation with your partners, such as the NHS or the multi-agencies and your community and organisations and citizens as well? Or are you looking at a transformation plan focused on change within an individual service? And I think there starts to be a real shift from this siloed way of doing transformation and recognising the bigger picture and looking across the organisation and going, where can we join up? Where can we join up, as I say, with external agencies or third parties or partners, and to deliver a better transformation of a service for the citizens that we that you all provide a service for. Our customer case studies show that a well planned and an automated customer journey is crucial to that good delivery and the efficient use of your resources. The last year has made it plain to us, certainly, that a multi-department, multi-agency collaboration is kind of key to a successful project, and digital is a way to make that work. Obviously we recognise that money is tight, and we can see austerity coming around the corner again, unfortunately, as a result of the last 12 months. So every project has to stack up, it has to be viable, it has to be costed, and it has to be, accountable. You have to be accountable for what that project is delivering. And sometimes silo working means that digital is just using a sticking plaster, and it only lasts for a short time. And therefore, I think there's a change that's needed to change from this. Let's buy a solution for now, and it might do you for a couple of years. But then in a couple of years, when the world changes again, and things change, and the requirements change, and the projects change, or even just moving parties that run the council change, perhaps that solution isn't as adaptable as it might need to be, and that's where platforms start to really come into their own. When you do have to rewrite stuff, you can adjust it yourselves and make. Take total ownership and control of that, and particularly with a low-code platform. So we believe taking that long-term view is in tech investment is important. If you're just looking for a CRM or a case management software, then it needs to start asking questions around: is it 100% fit for purpose today, for tomorrow, and as I say, for into the future? It's got to enable positive and flexible outcomes when you implement any solution. Now, I think. Sorry, you're on mute, Nick.
Apologies. I guess that leads on to that question then. So why take a platform approach?
Well, I think the number of organisations are starting to look this way. A number of councils, to solve a wide range of needs. You know, we've heard just this morning the number of people that are talking about using Lowcode to deliver solutions. And it's because platforms make it easy to reuse digital services on multiple tasks. So if you think you can, you might do a lot of back-end integrations, for example. Each standalone system that you implement, you've got to redo a lot of that work each time. If you take a platform approach, you can create that integration once and then reuse it in lots of different areas. So there's instant gains there from a support perspective and a maintenance perspective. It also allows you to build solutions faster and more efficiently, creating a more consistent service delivery, and as I say, saving time and resource. We've put up here a pointer to an article by PA Consulting, which we think is useful, and it's something that I would recommend people go and potentially have a look at. And in there it discusses the second wave of digital transformation and why platforms can make that easier to implement.
What capabilities do platforms bring?
So I think it's a range of things, and we've put some of them up here, as we say. So you get this full end-to-end functional capability. So you take, as I say earlier, control of that. You take ownership of that. You build the systems that you want around you. Then you can build and upskill a team of multidisciplinary working. So people coming in from different areas of your business. So it might be some service delivery team, as well as some IT team, even members of the public to help build that service. And you can build that team together to deliver a project, but it means that you're engaging with all your stakeholders. And then that team, some of them members of that team can stay together to build going forwards because they've learned the technology. You still get that security and that governance, so IT can still be rest assured that they're not going to break any policies that you might have in place as an organization. You've managed the authentication, whether that's single sign-on, whether it's network logins, whether it's integration to back office system, and keeping the control of that and determining who can have access to what's within the system. The integrations we've talked about a little bit. In the platform, again, you still get your reporting capabilities, and that is real-time live reporting and performance management, as well as some historical stuff as well, obviously, because of the records that are in there. And of course, you've still got the ability to output that to a more, what's the word I'm looking for, external reporting capability for management reports, if that's what you wanted to do, to something that's more going to dig deeper into the data. And it's perhaps the key thing is that flexibility around building something today that is going to work for today. You don't have to get it perfect the first time. You can build it, you can work agile to update that and reflect what customers are feeding back to you. You don't have to wait for a supplier to deliver a patch to your system to you. You can make the changes yourselves, roll that out across your user base, and that progressively goes forward into the future as well. And one of the things that we've seen within some of our customer base is that they take it, the Lowcode platform, to start one job, and they get that up and running, but then they build in a culture of come and talk to us as a team, not as the organisation as a team, the council, whenever there's a need to change a system, and let them see if they can do it in a Lowcode platform, because you're investing in the platform, and it's about harnessing that and making use of that for other areas of your business. And the reason that that's so successful is because of the speed to deploy. So it's quick to implement the platform at the start. It's quick to write on that when you understand your business process. And as I say, because you can take ownership of that and enhance that as you go through changes, then it means that it's nice and flexible solution for them.
Excellent, thanks, Simon. So here's actually something that sort of quite a lot of local authorities have mentioned at previous activities. The comparison between a CRM and a platform. So how do they compare?
So in effect, from a CRM point of view, what tends to happen, customers are looking, or councils are looking at a particular solution to fix that problem in hand. And I think what we're trying to sort of educate councils on is that actually, if you could achieve that capability, but have a platform that would allow you to onwardly develop beyond that as well, then surely that must be a better use of the funding that you're spending, and also the resource that you're putting into the technology. So it's really moving that mindset than just fixing the problem today, and looking at the potential move to a platform approach could actually deliver now and in the future.
Yeah, and I think just to add on to that, I think there's an area that is very much worth raising, which is this concept of a community and an app share. I think when you talk about Lowcode particularly, and Lowcode as a platform, the ability for you as councils to work with your peers and colleagues across the country to deliver services. We all know that you offer broadly the same types of services to your citizens, and why go and reinvent the wheel? You know, if you can work with a council in the north, for example, working with a council down on the south coast to deliver something around, I don't know, let's say a blue badge application or a pothole repair, or even planning, and work together to build something on a platform that then shared across a community, means that other councils benefit from that, and that's really only possible in that way through a platform approach, because then each council can take that and tweak it to their specific needs as well.
Excellent, thank you. Right, so here's a wonderful piece of research carried out, I think, with our good selves here at Public Sector Digital Transformation Forum. We just looked at sort of procurement in digital transformation, and you can see there it's quite a mixed bag. Any sort of thoughts on that? Does that sort of ring true? Does that ring true with what you're experiencing?
Want to pick that up, Andy?
Yeah. So from our point of view, what we're finding is that obviously moving from what is often referred to as a point solution to a platform, that sort of brings additional challenges, especially from a procurement point of view, because quite often what may have worked really well from a point solution procurement may not be the most appropriate route for a platform procurement. So I guess asking the question to how customers are engaging with their procurement and sponsors within the organisation. Is everybody moving with the times? Because obviously, if you're not aligning your ducks, so to speak, around the procurement aspect, then that actually can prohibit you moving to maybe your platform of choice. So you then find that you could be procuring a platform that actually isn't right for the organisation, but actually is the only platform that you can procure based on the processes that you have in place. So that was why it was interesting to just sort of ask what other councils are doing out there and what challenges they're facing in coming across. Excellent,
thanks Andy.
So an example of where a platform and a procurement works well is Adrian Worthing Council took the platform approach, and they implemented a low-code solution a number of years ago now. And one of the things that actually has helped them from a procurement point of view is that at any time that any part of the business has a new requirement, then what they do is they actually present that requirement to the digital team. So they've got a digital team that sort of supports the platform. What the digital team are then able to do is to look at the requirement to build on the low-code platform a minimum viable product, because it's very easy to achieve that, and then play that back to the business area. And what they're finding is that by doing that and utilising the platform to do that, they're actually avoiding the need to go out to procurement, because what they're finding is that the platform that they've already invested in can support wider opportunities and wider solutions than if they just bought a point solution. So I think that's quite an important point to remember. And also when building sort of business cases, we're finding that that's actually key from an investment and a financial point of view, and is maybe another reason to consider alternatives to just fixing the problem in hand and looking at what the wider picture can deliver as well.
Brilliant, thanks. So,
So one of
So I was just going to say, because obviously there are various frameworks, procurement frameworks out there, some of which are sort of, I guess, geared towards digital procurement. So do you want to tell us how they work?
Yeah, so the sort of the go-to framework tends to be sort of the G Cloud. That sort of seems to be where most people start off on. And that absolutely, from a point solution, tends to work extremely well. I think what we tend to find is that we're dealing with sort of more complex solutions now, and actually just pointing towards the G Cloud is not necessarily enabling councils to get their ultimate solution. So what we've tried to do is educate customers where we can, and sort of introduce alternative frameworks, procurement routes. And I think working with a council recently, just going to sort of share the journey, but one of the things that we actually did is we challenged, I guess, or our customer challenged procurement to look at an alternative framework, which we worked closely with the key sponsor and procurement, and actually found that that was a procurement route that they weren't aware of. But having sort of opened it up and utilised it for our particular procurement that we were looking at, actually made sense to use it for future procurements. So quite often, you know, sometimes just purely by challenging procurement to what they may see as the norm, can open up opportunities for everybody and help procurement, which is obviously a good thing to keep on our side.
Excellent. So how did the framework make a difference?
Yeah, so I think one of the things is that we were able to engage our commercial team within the organisation to actually sort of try and understand what the council was trying to reach and get to, understand why that you might want to choose an alternative route to what was being initially proposed. Also explaining some of it, because quite often people are quite new to the challenges around procurement. So understanding some of the key stakeholders, what sort of documents or board papers need to be produced. And it's really also keeping everybody in the loop. So it's engaging procurement as early on as possible, so there's no sort of shocks further down the line. We also work very closely with the Crown Commercial Services. So it's, you know, they're there to help. So I think also if you've got questions and there's ideas that you want to sort of float past them, there's no harm in doing that. And what we've found is that can actually be helpful for the journey as well. And then it's really positioning the offer as early as you can, getting agreement sign off, and making sure that the framework that you're utilising is fit for purpose. And then that sort of makes the whole procurement journey a lot easier. I think the key thing is as well is that a lot of councils have ended up procuring the wrong technology, and it's actually cost them, you know, a lot more in the longer term. Also, it's meant that they've had to go out and re-procure something else quite quickly. So getting it right first time is very valuable.
Okay. So moving on. Best practice suggestions. So I mean, this is to both of you, really. Yeah. So sorry.
Sorry, go on, Andy.
So I guess it's you know, it's having that open dialogue to understand what ultimately the council's trying to achieve and how we can support that. Not to be sort of afraid to challenge the normal, you know, just because, you know, a professional area of the organisation is saying you have to go down this particular route, it may be that they're not aware of alternatives, and it's it's really sort of important to have that conversation. Also to give as much information and alert as senior level as you possibly can, so there's no sort of shocks, I guess, along the way. And really, I think the key thing is just making sure that you're allowing enough time for a procurement route as well. Quite often there's an assumption that you can just literally purchase it there and then, but there might be a number of hurdles that you need to sort of go through and areas that you need to satisfy and allow that as part of the process. But I think working together is the key. Everybody wants to ultimately go in the right direction, and we've sort of mentioned a couple of frameworks here. There are other alternative frameworks, but I think it's just worth exploring what is out there, and obviously making sure that you're getting the right support where necessary.
Simon?
Yeah, I think for me it's about not being afraid of your procurement team almost to some extent, and not just going to them and going, this is what we want, and letting them go off and look for it. I think Andy's right. I think it's about collaboration and working together, and procurement teams also recognizing that the people who are going to deal with whatever solution are eventually going to be implemented need to be part of that procurement process. I think we talk about that, don't we, in transformation and service redesign, engaging with all teams and not having it done to them. And I think that still applies within procurement as well.
Excellent, thank you. So I guess, last thoughts before we open it out to questions.
Yeah, I think the key thing for me certainly is that your tech needs to be future perfect. It's got to be, yes, it's got to do the job that you want today, but it's about protecting yourselves and for the future and going, does this solution, whether it is a point solution off the shelf or as we believe a platform solution gives you better options for that, will allow you to work in that way. It's choosing the right solution, as I said, not just for today, but for the future. And that's sometimes a bit of a hard sell, which comes back to what Andy was saying about getting everybody engaged at the right time. And then matching the procurement to the tech. Don't compromise. We know that tech is an enabler. It won't do digital transformation for you, but it is right. It is key to get that right enabler there at the start, and accepting that it's a journey, and you're not going to do it as a one-off. It's a continuous thing for me.
Yeah, and I think it goes down to the communications and dialogue. That dialogue across the business to make sure everybody's sort of heading in the right direction. And really not to be frightened to sort of speak to, Crown Commercial Services to get advice and guidance. As I said, they're there to help. As technology changes, procurement sort of routes change as well. So it's important that we're mindful of that.
Excellent. Right, well, I will say thank you on your behalf, and I see there, and we'll share this, that there's a webinar being run on the Citizen Hub framework, which I believe is where the various apps that you talked about, people creating apps and sharing them, are shared. I think that's correct, isn't it, Simon?
Yeah, that's where they plug into. Yes.
Excellent. So, and obviously post activity, we'll be sharing all that sort of stuff. So, I will encourage and do encourage all those on this session to attend that. What I'm going to do before I ask the question is stop sharing my screen, so at least I can see everyone. But thank you very much, gentlemen. So, any questions for the gents about any of the content you've just heard, or any sort of observations, thoughts, opinions? If you'd like to unmute and if you want to put your camera on, you may. And I can see Ange, you're first off the blocks.
Yeah.
Far away.
Prompted by the last slide, really, and the webinar proposal. Will that actually show Lowcode and what it is? I'm in a position where I've heard lots and lots about it. I've never actually seen it, and I'm quite a visual person. So, it would really cement for me being able to see what it is we're talking about in practice. to make
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, that's fine, Ange. So there's a couple of things to say on that. So we run a number of webinars on a reasonably regular basis, some that look specifically at the Lowcode platform, on what Lowcode is. We recently ran one which is more geared towards Lowcode for local government. So it's looking at how that works within local government. You know, and I think Linda will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's up on our website, which we can send you a link to that. The one that's running in a few weeks' time, looking at the Citizen Framework, is so the Citizen Framework is our solution for, or our suggestion of a framework for case management for local authorities, for local government. So that will look at how that functions specifically. And how that works together to allow you to manage, you know, from a customer service perspective, the services that you typically offer to your citizens, you know, the usual ones that we talk about: pothole repairs, street light furniture, that sort of things, and how you manage those. But then, of course, you can extend it because of the platform nature of it. So yes, we will be looking at the actual software as part of that webinar.
I'm sure if you ask nicely that somebody might actually sort of maybe get in touch with you and do a demo for you. You know,
Sure, that could
one of
be
these kindly gentlemen. You know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm sure there'd be others interested in seeing that if you were willing to do that on an informal basis. So yeah.
There you go.
Already on the to-do list.
We're happy to do something if Andrew wants to set it up and show you where we are.
Well, you see,
yeah, thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
There you go. There is a gentleman amongst us. Well done, Mike. Any more questions? I tell you what, I had a quick question. I thought it was quite interesting. I think Andy, you mentioned that it did sound like that people that had purchased Lowcode had purchased it for a specific, you know, sort of as a solution to a specific problem. So it almost had been bought as a point solution, and then obviously proves its worth. And then because you bought it and it has potential throughout the organization, so it's not bought as a corporate implementation. It's bought as almost like a point solution, but then it has the capability of doing more for everybody else.
I think that's quite interesting actually, because quite often to get these projects moving, it ends up reducing the size of the project down to kick it off. And you're absolutely right. You know, more often than not, it addresses a particular requirement. So it might be, you know, the project in hand is to replace a current CRM system, but then what comes out of it is the fact that actually what we can now do is a lot more than just what we were starting off to do to replace the CRM system. So you then have a platform that you can onwardly develop and consider other sort of replacements of maybe legacy systems or spreadsheets, etc., etc. So it's really avoiding the need to then sort of go out in, you know, a few years' time and replace another system again. And I think that's what's quite exciting about the platform approach. You know, it's giving the longevity within the technology and giving us, without having a crystal ball, it's giving as much future as you possibly can moving forward.
Yeah, and I think that's been evidenced certainly in this last 12 months, hasn't it, with dealing with the pandemic and the COVID apps that our customers have been able to develop. You know, everything from managing business grants through to managing PPE equipment, and even doing test and trace, you know, delivery within a council, which is you know, outperformed statistically the national system, and that's because they bought the right platform at the right time. And we're in a position to be able to use it in that way. It wasn't what they originally were looking for, but it's how they've been able to utilise it.
Yeah, and I think what we've seen as well is that over the last few months, people have looked at what they've currently got to utilise and maximise that as much as they can. And I guess that's where sort of a platform comes into its own, giving that, as Simon suggests, you know, that options to onward develop quickly.
David, you've got your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Nick. Yeah, that presentation, I sort of followed the logic all around the procurement, and it all made perfect sense. But I guess I still don't have a clue what low code is and what you mean by platform. So we're talking something like, I don't know, you buy Excel and then you can develop your own spreadsheets rather than buying something, you know, a spreadsheet that's already designed. Is that what you mean when you say platform versus, I forget the term you used, but
yeah, versus a point solution. So low code, essentially, what you're doing is you're buying a platform. So if you think about it as you're buying all of the tools that you need to build an application on your own, and it's all intuitive, drag and drop. And what you do is you create the fields that you want to add onto a system. You drag those onto the pages, whether that be to capture or to display. You've got mapping functionality, reporting functionality in there as well, and all of the usual sort of conditional stuff that you would expect to see in a system that, you know, if you do this, then you get this as an option. But not only that, you get your full BPM solution as part of that as well. So that designs your process, automated emails, all of those sort of things that come as part of, you know, that you would expect to get as part of the BPM. So that allows you to then build one or more solutions that you want to run as an organization. It's probably easier for us to give you a demonstration. If that's something that you'd be interested in seeing, then I'm sure we can sort that out for you.
Right, okay, so it sounds like it's like a visual programming tool. Is that
Yeah.
what we mean?
Yeah, it is. You don't go into the back end to do the development, and it's a way of addressing to some extent the skill shortage that we have in this country. You know, we do recognise that is a thing. We all know that that's going to need to change for the future. But the platform also allows you to not engage with, you know, like Java developers or C# developers or whatever they might be to develop applications yourselves. You get these what we call citizen developers. I think somebody called them an end user developer earlier on, who are involved in actually building the systems yourselves. To give you an example, I'm not a programmer, but I'm writing applications in this platform using the functionality that's provided as part of it. And then where there is a need to do some coding, then that's part of our Code Studio elements of that platform again, which is included as part of the platform.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's starting to.
Yeah. I guess I could add a little bit further on that. If you're familiar with sort of business process type diagrams, I see it as a little akin to that. So you're constructing your business process, and very often there's lots of tools out there, even Visio, where you can actually create, you know, your business process, and that's done in a very diagrammatic way. And I see low code as really a further extension of that, in terms of, you know, not just building processes using graphical means, but building the rest of the application in the same way.
It brings the graphical means to life, really, in terms of, yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks,
yeah.
Dave.
Thank you.
Paul?
Yeah, another observation I've made, obviously I've been around low code for a little while, and the other challenge I often find is in councils I see an awful lot of what I call proliferation of off-the-shelf products to solve specific issues. And in doing so, it fosters this element of what I call IT white space. And this is the white space that often exists between those, if you like, silos of off-the-shelf products. And what you find afterwards, after you've acquired those products, is there is a real need to start to share information across those silos. And that is often a blocker. You can do it in some cases you can't. But if very often trying to find a way of sharing information across those off-the-shelf products is as much, it actually costs as much as actually buying the off-the-shelf products in the first place. And one thing that low code eliminates effectively, because of the way that, you know, you're sharing a core of information between those silos, is that the silos no longer exist, and you're taking away that IT white space. And now, you know, as a byproduct of low code, you get that ability to share information across different departments, across different communications that you may be having with your citizens, if that makes sense.
Is it an interoperability silver bullet then?
Yeah, it certainly takes away some of the challenges. And of course, low code by out of the box is an open integrated environment. It's there to openly integrate with existing systems. So the other thing is, it's not about rip and replace of your existing IT investments. It's about integrating where we can with those investments. But then as you start to develop out, like Ada and Worthing is a good example, they don't have to think about now sharing information across departments, across their engagement with citizens, because it comes as a byproduct of you building your own applications or using applications off of the available app store.
And are you, just another quick question, are you able to use low code to maybe build on top of existing sort of apps? So, if an app isn't, I'm not going to name any names, but if there was an app and you thought, this isn't sort of quite up to the job, or it's not been future proofed, and now it needs to do an additional thing. Let's say it's I don't know, Revs and Bends or something like that. Are you able to add something onto it?
I was going to answer that one as well. I'm sure Simon will produce another answer as well. But I've had examples where you've had what I'm going to call it the green screen syndrome, where you've got the green screen. Underneath that green screen is some really useful data, but you don't want to see a green screen. So low code has been used where we've integrated with that green screen environment. You don't want to see the green screen, so you present a much nicer user experience through low code, so that the user gets to look at a page that looks like any other page of a council website. But underpinning that is data that's actually drawn out of a legacy, typical green screen based system.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, it's absolutely could be used in that way, Nick. I mean, I think it's not where we would necessarily push for, but it certainly can be used in that way. If customers have specific requirements around that, then obviously we can talk to them. But yes, it certainly can be bolted on top of something else and be used to render information or capture information and push it back into a third-party system or a back office, line of business solution, using REST APIs as an example. Then yeah, that's certainly possible. And again, that can be done in real time. And where those integrations are not potentially as straightforward, then as we heard about on Monday, RPA can be used to do some of that grunt work for them as well.
Excellent. I see Mike is. I thought Mike might have an opinion on this. Mike?
Well, only because we're looking at some integration at the moment with the Liberty Create platform and our Revs and Bends, and I'm cautious that we don't replicate the functionality in Liberty Create with what's already in Northgate and Information at Work. But what we are looking at is, because we need an efficient way of prioritizing and pushing work to the Revs and Bends officers, is using the power of Liberty Create to feed the work into the system and to receive it from the contact center or through emails, but then use that then to point to the Northgate screens and deliver the work to the Revs and Bends officers, rather than surface too much information out of Revs and Bends or try and push too much information back in from Liberty Create. Because I think that, whilst it's doable, I think that would be quite a large piece of work. Right. So that's what we're trying to do in the short term anyway, to get some benefits from it.
Okay.
But going back to something you said earlier as well, we've been asked to replace our street naming and numbering system with Liberty Create now. Right. The users asked us to buy them one. They looked at one, they said, oh, we like that. And then when they got it, they didn't like it. And they said, actually, we want it in Liberty Create now. So we can do that. That's relatively straightforward.
But that's something that was a purchase that was made, and then they didn't like it. And
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it didn't integrate properly with the Gazetteer, and you
right.
can do it in Liberty Create in a way that they're used to working with the outgoing workflow system.
And just stay there, Mike, unless anybody else has got any questions, and we have got 5 more minutes till next session. Mike, do you mind just giving your sort of experiences of procurement, and maybe just a really quick why you went down the low code route, Because I get the impression that there's a variety of different understandings of low code, and obviously we just talked about procurement. So you know, I'm not asking you to. I know I'm asking you to wing it potentially, but I do know it's a topic you can talk about at some length.
My relationship with our procurement officer is one such that because I have to admit, I see procurement as something that gets in the way of getting what you want. And I used to go to our procurement officer with various proposals and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And she used to look at me and in a way that I used to interpret that as the frown of approval. And you see, she sort of wouldn't, it wouldn't be the way that she would suggest, if you like, but I think, you know, what I was always minded to was to try and keep the exercise as efficient as possible, go through the frameworks, think about what you want. And when you are engaged with a vendor, what I found was a big time saver as well, because some of these framework forms are massively long and complicated, is to actually get the supplier to help you fill it in as well, rather than try and tackle it all yourself, because obviously they've seen dozens of them, and the chances are you'll only ever see that one particular framework form once. And it's quite useful just to use their experience to get some pointers as to actually what I'm supposed to be putting there, because it's not always obvious.
Right.
So that's, I mean, from the way we procured the Lowcode platform was we compared it with a few others, and what we wanted to do was replace our existing CRM case management system and workflow system. So what we wanted right from the outset was pretty ambitious, and we had looked around, and I'd got a couple in mind, and I'd go and sort of propose what we wanted to achieve to the councillors. And at the time, I'd got my sort of what I thought would have been the preferred one. And one of the councillors said to me, he said, well, because we'd done a platform transformation about 6 years before, and he said to me, are we going to be ripping this out again in 5 years' time? And that's what really made me think about going down a more sort of ambitious low-code route, if you like, rather than what possibly could have been seen as the traditional sort of local authority platform. So that was how we kind of got through to the going with the Netcore platform in the end. But we did do some comparisons, invited users along, kept everybody on board, involved the senior management members, contact center, case managers, got the products demoed, set up some big rooms with like cabaret style tables, gave them some challenges and a marking scheme, and came out with Liberty Create.
Excellent. Just quickly, well, I'm sure you could tell us more, but I've just got a quick question. Stephen Wilson's put a question there. Are there any plans by low-code providers to have a standard for transferring procedure mapping and forms between systems? We went from Lagan to firm step 5 or 6 years ago and had to build everything from scratch. In this case, starting from fresh wasn't so bad, but with good processes and forms, the hassle of changing to another system would really inhibit that move. So I'll open that out, and let Netcall first, then Simon Smith from Goss, because that would be let's see how the two sort of providers on the call respond to that.
So it's something, obviously, that it's a question that we're asked every now and again, and I think that yes, whilst we could potentially produce stuff as standard BPMN type outputs, what we find is that when you transfer stuff from one system to another, because of the unique nature of X other system and the way that it handles moves between stages or emails or the relevant forms and plugging them all back in, that sometimes it is just quicker to do it again, because you're doing it in a different technology, in a different platform, and the way in which that platform works. So it's something that if there was a specific customer requirement for, then we would obviously have a look at that and see whether that was viable for them and for the platforms that they're coming from and to.
Brilliant. And Mr. Smith, do you want to?
Yeah, I think Simon's right in what he says in that regard. Obviously, systems are different. It's, I can say that as an organisation, we have provided a migration from firm step to our platform, which we did for a London borough. and we migrated several hundred form processes, etc. However, unfortunately, when they got them out the other side, they realised actually there was quite a lot wrong with them in the first place, which was one of the reasons why they were looking to change their platform. So I think Simon's right in regard that, you know, all of our systems are slightly different. You know, they will all function slightly different ways. Ours is actually underpinned by an industry standard BPMN engine. So not that we'd want you to leave us if you ever came to us, but you could take out those industry standard BPM processes from our platform and put them into another like-minded system. So that would be my approach. But the other thing to add to that, I think, is, and Simon touched on it, is really, you know, if you are looking to move to a new provider, you may yet be looking to move to a different way of working. So it might be a useful time to reconsider the way you operate, reconsider the way you deliver your service, and that's a good opportunity to do that.
Brilliant.
It's
Thanks.
that transformation, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah. Stephen, does that help? Oh yes, thank you. Yeah, he said. Brilliant. Well, excellent, gents. Simon, Andrew, and Mr. Smith for that bit of insight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.